The Detroit Pistons last night in game number 4 of their first round series with the Orlando Magic. Another loss, 94-88. And I mentioned, what are the playoffs all about? It's the ongoing chess match. You come out one way, other team makes adjustments, and then all of a sudden, the dynamic of the series changes. Then it's all about your team countering their adjustments, and then back and forth, back and forth. And after the Orlando Magic in Game 1 punched the Pistons in the mouths, built up an early lead, Pistons never able to lead in that one. They were able to tie a few times, but never able to take over. It seemed like Game 2, they were going to start turning the corner. Their defense was cranked up to, 110. They allowed only 83 points by the Magic in Game 2. Went on that 30-3 run to start the second half to really put that game away. But even then, final score only 98-83, which, even though you went on that big run, and it still shows scoring under 100 points, especially in today's NBA, that is it's a little bit concerning with this Pistons offense. So through 2 games to this point, the Pistons got 101 points in Game 1, 98 points in Game 2. So it's like, all right, Pistons are struggling to score in this series. But maybe with that big run in that third quarter, maybe they're going to be turning the corner. Maybe they're going to finally find something right here. And then that brings us to Game 3. Same thing, Pistons playing pretty sloppy. And they had chances at the end. Not only did they have a late lead, but they had late chances to tie or take the lead back and just could not come through, while you had Orlando coming through with some big shots, specifically that big back-breaking Wagner 3 to make it a 2-possession lead. And the Pistons had to fall apart at the end. It's like, all right, well, how are the Pistons going to come out in Game 4? In my eyes, I think they really needed to come out in this game last night swinging. They needed to come out in full force. Needed to try to punch them in the mouth for a change. And you know what? The opposite happened. The Pistons once again falling into a hole. It was 8-0 for Orlando in this one before the Pistons finally got on the board. Fell behind double digits early. Now, they did turn it around. They did finish the first quarter strong, actually led by 1 going into the second quarter. And then the Pistons started to take control a little bit. Started to build their own lead. As a matter of fact, as many as 10 points. But to close the first half, this is what changed the whole game for me. The way that the Pistons closed the first half was absolutely abysmal. With about 5 minutes left, the Pistons led by 9. So if you want to maintain this, it's like, all right, maintain this, go into halftime around, 8, 9, 10 points on top. The Pistons will surely take that, given how the season, this series has gone for them. But if anything, hey, we need to continue this momentum. We need to finish this half strong. If the Pistons could go into halftime with a 14 to 15 point lead, then that's like, all right, Pistons are in business. They have a good chance of trying to take this game, even up the series, going back home for Game 5 to try to take the series lead. But that was not the case. The Pistons got outscored, 17-7? to close the first half, and just like that, they're actually now trailing at halftime after leading by 9. And then that momentum continued into the second half. And that leads us to another close finish. Very reminiscent of Game 3. Pistons are right there. You have a combination of some poor shots, turnovers, and then another big three. This time Desmond Bane, who, by the way, had some support courtside from some of his former Memphis Grizzlies teammates, who he spent 5 seasons with before this year playing with the Orlando Magic. Hits a big three, making it a 6-point lead. And once he hit that shot, I was like, this is basically over. The Pistons, the way they've been scoring in this series, they just can't be trusted to make these big shots, especially from 3. Now, we knew the 3-point shot is not a big part of this Pistons team. Besides Duncan Robinson, they don't really have any standout 3-point shooters. I know they acquired Kevin Huerter at the trade deadline, but A, I wasn't really sold on him when the Pistons got him, but B, he just really has been played pretty sparingly, has not really been a big part of this team's rotation. But man, especially in a game when your lone 3-point shooter, really option on this team, Duncan Robinson, just 1 of 6 in this one from downtown. I just knew that was too much. What was it, 90 seconds left, down 6? Not going to overcome that. And the Pistons lose again. They fall behind 3-1. They are now only the 3rd team in NBA history to win at least 60 games in the regular season and to be falling into a 3-1 hole in the first round of the playoffs. First 2 teams, the 2007 Dallas Mavericks and the 2011 San Antonio Spurs. Neither team was able to come back and win that series. It's already few and far between at this point. Teams that have been able to come back from a 3-1 deficit. The most recent examples, which A, being a Nuggets fan, B, I don't know where I was going with this. I don't know what the B is. But being a Nuggets fan, I will actually be the first one to tell you a little bit of a fluke, actually. The last time a team overcame a 3-1 deficit, it was actually in the COVID bubble playoffs. The Nuggets not once but twice overcame a 3-1 deficit. But I'll be the first to tell you that those are outliers. Because A, being in the bubble, it's a lot different overcoming a 3-1 deficit when you're playing in a sanitized, neutral environment. And when you're playing and you have to get at least one of those wins on the road in a raucous environment. I mean, how about that Orlando crowd in these last 2 games? I told you this. You think this Pistons fan base is starved? That Orlando fan base is pretty much just as starved as this Pistons fan base is for any sort of success for their team. But there's a difference between getting a 3-1 comebacks, let alone 2 in the same playoff series, in a neutral environment than in a regular environment. I think the last time one came in a regular environment was, I think it was 2015, 2016, around there. And that one even gets a little bit of an asterisk. It was the Houston Rockets. They overcame a 3-1 deficit to the LA Clippers. But the elephant in the room of that one was both Chris Paul and Blake Griffin got injured in that series. So just like that, the Clippers are without their 2 star players. And the Rockets were able to make a 3-1 comeback there. So, what? I don't know. Recent history, not really history in general, not really favorable to the teams to fall behind 3-1. It is doable, but I'm honestly without words. What is happening in this series to this Pistons team? They're fully healthy. I actually had a cousin text me last night who's a big Pistons fan, saying this was reminiscent of the Lions of 2 seasons ago, where they went 15-2, dominant in the regular season, but then they lost early in the playoffs to the Washington Commanders. But my initial thought of that was at least that Lions team was decimated by defensive injuries, so you can at least, point to that a little bit being a contributing factor to that upset. This Pistons team, they were rolling at the end of the season, and they're fully healthy. This Pistons team is fully healthy right now. Just at a loss of words. All that mojo. Just like that, your back is against the wall. Now, give credit to Orlando for how they've played in this series. They're playing like they're the team that won 60 games in the regular season. They were the number 1 seed all year. But that said, the Pistons, they've been playing some great, great defense in this series. This is now the second game that they hold their opponents to under 100 points, which is a tremendous feat, especially in today's NBA. And then for that matter, the 2 games that Orlando did break 100, only 112 and 113 points respectively, which that's a low number in itself in today's NBA. So defense really hasn't been the issue for this Pistons team. It is the offensive side of the ball. And the Pistons even said this after the game. There was a quote from Tobias Harris. The team is just too loose right now, too casual. And it shows on the floor. They're playing loose. They're playing loosey-goosey. You're sloppy with the ball, careless. In a game where the Magic only got 94 points, 23 of those points came off of turnovers. You're just giving away baskets at that point. That means the Orlando Magic only able to muster together 71 points in a half-court setting. And I said going into this game, the Pistons need to have a lot more success in the half court if they want to try to turn this series around, and they just haven't had it. Now, I mentioned earlier there's a lot to be made about the three-point shooting on this Pistons team, which in general, it is not a big part of their game. It isn't. You only have one real three-point threat. Now, multiple players are capable of making a three, yes, but only one true three-point threat in the form of Duncan Robinson. He was clunking Robinson last night. 1 of 6. And besides that, you can criticize role contributions all you want, but if your main guys aren't getting it done, then you can't really, why even bother pointing at the other guys? And at this point, it starts with Cade Cunningham. 25 points, needed 23 shots to do so, only 7 of 23 from the floor. 3 of 11 from downtown, which even if you take those threes away, he is 4 of 12 on 2-point attempts, which is horrific in itself. 9 rebounds, 6 assists, but here's the glaring stat, 8 turnovers. 4 of those turnovers for Cade Cunningham coming in the first 5 minutes of the game. Way sloppy out of the gates. And I kept saying all season, Cade Cunningham, he is at his best when he's A, limiting turnovers, because turnovers have been a bit of an issue for him this season, his whole career really. And B, when he's shooting efficiently. He did neither of those last night. He was careless with the ball, and he shot the ball very poorly. And then that brings us to Jalen Duren. Now, yes, he did shoot over 50%, 5 of 8, but that doesn't take away from the fact that this is not the same Jalen Duren that we've been getting during the regular season. Just 12 points, 8 rebounds. Not good enough. Not nearly good enough. In almost 3 more minutes per game in the playoffs compared to what he averaged in the regular season, he is averaging 10 less points, 2 less rebounds. He's turning the ball over more. His field goal percentage has dropped nearly 20 whole percent. Down to 469 from 650 in the regular season. True shooting percentage down to 517 from 688 in the regular season. So I mentioned his productivity's down across the board. That's been a significant factor. And the single play, if you want to isolate one single play to sum up this series for the Pistons, earlier in the fourth quarter, Jamal Cain blows past Cade Cunningham, goes right to the rim, and just rams an absolute poster all over Jalen Duren, which sends him tumbling to the baseline. Absolute embarrassment from your 2 stars, which, by the way, are supposed to be great defenders as well. Jalen Duren especially. I didn't see that in this game. If anything, the defense has been his only saving grace in this playoff series. But this game, Orlando was attacking him and scoring over him almost at will. So the Pistons, they are in shambles. You know, they always say the playoffs, your greatest flaws get amplified. And unfortunately, it has brought out the greatest flaws in both Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren. Now, that's been the critique of this team so far is, you know, Cade Cunningham, he needs that second score. He does have a second score, and his name is Jalen Duren. He averaged over 19 points per game in the regular season. That's a scorer right there. And I mentioned yesterday how he took his scoring to a whole nother level post All-Star break, routinely finishing in the mid to upper 20s in scoring. So, where's the excuses? What happened? And the Orlando Magic have proven that, you know, the big, bad Pistons this year, they've been very physical. They've been basically bullying teams all year. Well, this Pistons team happened to get matched up to the one team probably in the entire NBA that has the physicality to match this Pistons team, and then suddenly the Pistons don't look so big and tough after all. Now, the series is not over yet. From witnessing a couple of 3-1 comebacks previously, I mentioned in a little bit more of a sanitized environment in the bubble, but no less, the principle is still the same. It's you got to take it one game at a time right here. You look ahead to Game 5, which will be tomorrow at Little Caesars Arena, at home. You got to get this win. I mean, obviously, or else your season is over, but take it one game at a time. You're in front of your home crowd. You got to play with the urgency. Your season's done if you don't get this win. Play well in this game. Maybe just get that offense going. Show us something like, all right, yeah, this team, this is looking like the Pistons that we've seen all season. And then, all right, going back onto the road for Game 6, going into that hostile environment. We've heard how raucous that crowd got, and when the Pistons were up around 9 points there in the second quarter, that crowd got quiet. You quieted that crowd, took them out of it. You got to come out swinging, take the crowd out of it from the get-go, and you got to be the enforcer all game. And then, just like that, all of a sudden, whoa, you're back at home for Game 7. And at that point, all the pressure is not on the Pistons to complete the 3-1 comeback. The pressure is on Orlando to not blow it. And then just like that, all the momentum's in your favor. But now the Pistons are out of excuses. They're out of time. You have to get this thing turned around. You have to make some sort of adjustments to finally break through this Orlando Magic defense. You have to. Clean up the turnovers. Get better shots. Be patient with your offensive possessions. And we got to see this momentum start to shift. Otherwise, the Pistons are just going to be another bad stat in the NBA history books of teams to win 60-plus games in the regular season, but to be ousted in the first round.
If you missed today's installment of On the Docket, podcast it at foxsports1019.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to tune in live weekdays at noon on Jackson's Fox Sports 101.9 FM.